I made this RPG game where everything is controlled with a single button. Battling enemies requires fast reaction times and a bit of luck. There is gold, a chest, and a fat merchant who sells you upgrades. It was a pretty nice one-time video challenge. Until you made it blow up with the views. Almost 4,300 was a milestone. Over 50 new subscribers, bunch of comments, bunch of likes. I can't thank you enough. So I came back to this game with more ideas and things to implement. And let's just say I scoped the creep out of this one. Now, if I wanted to make this game play better and easier to expand, I had to fix this spaghetti code that I have. I put on my nerd glasses and started refactoring the code. Let's just say that's one way to spend an evening or a whole weekend. After wasting time on what was only the first of many refactors to come, I got nowhere. Well, I circled back to the same gameplay, just with better code. The game had other issues, buggy animations, shitty UI, bad gameplay readability, just to name a few. It also had some questionable moments like this encounter window that gives you a chance to skip a fight. Like why? Why would I put this into a game? Also, while on topic of encounters, those were really unpredictable. You could meet the fatty 2 times in a row even if you had no money, or run into 3 chests in a row and feel like Jeff Bezos. So what I'm trying to say, game was all over the place, and it really needed a new beginning. First thing I did was conveniently push animations, bad UI, and anything that has to do with art under the rug, because I'm not touching that right now. That's a future Ducky's problem. What I want to do is I want to tackle on the combat mechanic. I've seen a lot of comments saying that the combat mechanic was simple yet interesting in its own way. It had a pretty simple flow. You roll your damage and then you try and hit a crit or go for a heal. In the enemy's turn, you can either shield yourself or try and evade the attack, and that's it. That worked for a while. Well, for first few times you play this game, and afterwards it started to feel boring and predictable, because if you're fast enough, you're always going to crit and you're always going to evade the enemy. So I started brainstorming, scavenging the internet, looking for inspiration in other games, reading your comments, and finally settling on this idea. Instead of having just 2 fixed actions for offense and defense phases of a fight, what if you were offered a choice to pick 2 or 3 offensive and defensive actions at the beginning of a run? Each action comes with a different effects. Deal damage, heal, gain armor, gain damage, gain health. There could be 100 variations. And just like before, the greater the effect, the harder the action is to perform. So I started making architecture that will support all this, and after many sleepless nights, I had managed to make one that does everything and then some. I made everything data driven. Well, sort of. To make a new action is as easy as just right clicking and adding a new action data that you can then populate with different effects you wish that action card to have. And the code does the rest. It builds a card and card description. I even went a step further and made support for status effects and buffs, which added another layer of depth to the combat. Enemies also got changed. They now have a set of actions they can perform during their attack phase. You as a player will see what that action is, giving you a chance to perform a defense action accordingly, making the whole combat more strategic. Now I know what you're thinking. This isn't going to work with a single button. Well, it could, but I feel like if I want this to become something, I should step into this gray area and allow more different interactions than the single button I had before, as long as I don't change how the combat is working. That will stay true to the one button challenge I had envisioned in the last video. At some point I had to step away from coding and decided to try and make some art. Since the game really needs some fresh UI, I made status effect icons and changed how the meter looks. Button also got polished, and I added new UI HUD with the new attributes icons. I'm still figuring out the design for how actions will look on the meter, so if you have any suggestions, write them down in the comments. I read every single one. After playtesting this newly made combat, I started missing that high risk, high reward I had before, since now you can either miss or perform the action. So I made one final change. The first stage of combat is selecting and hitting the action. after which you are presented with a second meter that looks exactly the same as the old one. Only now, instead of having crit or heal zones, you're hitting action quality. Depending on what area you hit, you're going to perform a low, medium, or high quality action. Quality influences the base stat values of actions, bringing back that high risk, high reward part, and making this combat even more interesting. Last few days I worked on quality of life stuff. I implemented the tooltip, so now you can hover over each effect on cards and read them. I plan on making something similar when enemy is projecting its action, so you can know which action he's using. You can hover over that action and read its description. And that's it. This is the current state of the game. Soon I'll be posting a new version of prototype, so you can test this new combat once I create some unique cards and builds, so you can give me the feedback. Also, there is a Discord channel on which I will be posting updates regarding this project and any future videos, so if you want to join and have a conversation of any kind, I'll be there. And once again, I want to thank you so much for watching this video. Please make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. Peace!